Like bosses, there's always another one coming, according to Richard Branson. This is another episode of Business Insight, carefully crafted to keep you up to speed with business development and opportunities. I am your host, Olaoluwa Awe. We start with the development on businesses far and near. So get ready for stock market reports, currency and commodity prices, and a conversation on the booming event business, especially campus event management in Nigeria, with event strategist Susan Joseph. But first is the business news. Stay tuned. The National Directorate of Employment, NDE, has launched the nationwide registration of all categories of artisans, with Ogun State being the first to kick off the registration process. The initiative aims to empower artisans across the country by providing them with opportunities for skill development and employment. The registration is open to artisans from various trades, including but not limited to automobile, autotronics, mechatronics, auto-electrical, arc and gas welding, barbing, catering and hotel management, carpentry and furniture making, GSM repairs, computer operations, maintenance and programming, hairdressing, cosmetology, tailoring and fashion designing, as well as tie and dye. As part of the effort to ensure accessibility to all artisans in Ogun State, the registration centers have been set up strategically across the 3 senatorial districts. The registration is free, and interested individuals can visit the registration centers or the official NDE website for more information. The federal government of Nigeria, through its Solid Minerals Development Fund, SMDF, has announced its support for the private sector by providing low-risk single-digit loans for greenfield exploration in Nigeria. Greenfield exploration involves exploring uncharted territories where mineral deposits are not yet known to exist. SMDF Chief Executive Officer Fatima Shinkafi stated that the goal is to promote private sector-led investment in the mining sector because the private sector is often more efficient in running such business enterprises compared to the government. Shinkafi says there are gaps in the mining sector that need to be addressed to attract both local and foreign investors, one of which is the agency's main focus, greenfield exploration. Businessman and investor Femi Otedola, who recently divested 2.8 million units of shares in Geregu Power PLC, is embarking on a new ambitious business venture. Teaming up with the Lagos State government and the African Development Bank, is set to spearhead a groundbreaking power transmission project. This collaboration will operate under a public-private partnership PPP arrangement, marking a significant shift as private individuals were previously not allowed to transmit power in Nigeria. With the recent enactment of the Electricity Act and a focus on promoting investment in the power sector through PPPs, the Lagos State government aims to leverage this opportunity fully. The establishment of a sustainable electricity market is crucial for the state, considering Lagos is Nigeria's largest economy and ranks 5th in Africa. Now, Dangote Cement PLC has successfully completed the first tranche of its share buyback program. In recent times, the company repurchased a total of 121 million shares, representing 0.71% of its issued and fully paid ordinary shares, at an average price of 339 naira per share, amounting to 41.15 billion naira. Although the completion of tranche did not have a significant impact on the company's financial position, the The move is part of the company's efforts to increase long-term shareholder value and optimize its capital structure and balance sheet. As a result of the share buyback, the company's total assets have been reduced, leading to potential improvement in return on assets and return on equity. Additionally, reducing the number of shares in circulation can result in faster growth in earnings per share as revenue and cash flow increase. The positive reaction to the share buyback program has made Dangote Cement PLC the most capitalized stock on the NGX with a market capitalization of 5.99 trillion naira. Now, Meta's chief executive officer, Mark Zuckerberg, has experienced an incredible surge in his net worth, reaching an impressive $110 billion, with a staggering increase of $64.5 billion since the beginning of the year. This phenomenal rise in wealth can be attributed to the outstanding performance of Meta stock, which has skyrocketed by 141% in recent times. The stock's remarkable trajectory has been fueled by tangible factors, leading to a substantial 150% year-to-date increase, and starting the year at $124.74, Meta stock surged to $297.17 as at July. Additionally, the launch of Zuckerberg's latest offering, Threads, has generated considerably some excitement, engaging of millions of users and raising expectations for Meta's future monetization. Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie has taken the box office by storm, earning an outstanding $155 million in its opening weekend. This remarkable achievement marks the largest debut of 2023 and stands as a significant milestone for female directors in the industry. The film's success is even more impressive when combined with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Together, the two movies contributed to a massive $302 million in total earnings over the weekend, making it the fourth highest gross industry weekend ever in North America. Barbie and Oppenheimer surpassed initial predictions, doubling expectations set by analysts in the week leading up to the release. The unexpected success has sparked excitement in the struggling movie industry, raising hopes for its revival. Meanwhile, American multinational toy company Mattel is expected to see its stocks benefit significantly from the success of the Barbie movie, featuring Margot Robbie as Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Ken. Three factors are likely to contribute to Mattel's advantage from the Barbie movie's success. Firstly, the company is to collect licensing fees directly from the movie's box office sales, and it has also secured new licensing deals for various products, boosting its licensing revenue. Secondly, the movie's positive reception has generated enthusiasm for Barbie-related products, reducing the need for Mattel to advertise its offerings in the near to medium term. Lastly, although the movie primarily targets adults with its satirical nature and PG-13 rating, it is expected to create a halo effect that could lead to increased toy sales as adults gain a renewed affinity for the brand and consider gifting Barbie products in the future. As a bonus, the success of the Barbie movie could open up possibilities for Mattel to license more of its intellectual property for content creation, such as the upcoming movie based on its Hot Wheels toy line, produced by J.J. Abrams, and expected to be released in 2025. As a result of this, Goldman Sachs has raised Mattel's price targets to $24, suggesting a potential upside of 13% from current levels. Amazon has announced a significant investment of $120 million in constructing a satellite processing facility at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida as part of its ambitious Project Kuiper Internet Network. This move marks a major development in the company's plan to deploy a vast network of 3,236 satellites in low Earth orbits to provide global high-speed internet access. The 100,000-square-foot facility will be located at the historic Launch and Landing Facility, LLF, formerly used for NASA's space shuttle missions, and now operated by Space Florida, the state's space economy development arm. Space Florida's Chief Executive Officer, Frank DeBello, highlighted the importance of Amazon becoming the first major tenant at the LLF, revealing that Project Kuiper's processing facility will play a crucial role in preparing the satellites for launch on rockets from the United Launch Alliance and Blue Origin, which is separately owned by Jeff Bezos. The construction is expected to be completed by the end of 2024, with satellite processing scheduled to begin in early 2025. Amazon's Vice President of Kuiper Production Operations, Steve Metaier, stressed the company's commitment to talent acquisition reflected in their strategic choice of locations, and Project Kuiper currently employs over 1,400 people with primary facilities near Seattle and additional locations in San Diego, Austin, Texas, New York City, Washington, D.C. The company secured the largest corporate rocket deal in the industry's history last year, booking 77 launches from various companies to ensure timely deployment and to meet regulatory requirements for its satellite network. And that's the end of the business news. At the end of the first trading day of the week, we talk about the Nigerian Stock Exchange and other stock markets across Africa. Now to the NGX, 831 million naira, 831.5 million shares in 9,768 deals were traded with a market value of 12.94 billion naira compared to the end of the previous trading week. There was an 8% increase in the volume of shares traded, a 9% decline in total turnover, but a 10% improvement in the number of deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange stands at 35.5 trillion naira. 116 equities participated in the trade, with 32 gaining in share price and 33 losing. Notably, gainers included National Salt Company, GlaxoSmithKline, Consumer, FTN Cocoa Processors, and Lasaco Assurance, all experiencing a 10% share price appreciation. On the other hand, Ikeja Hotel came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% at 2.70 naira per share. Multiverse Mining and Exploration came followed by a 9.97%, Ila Lakes 9.86%, and Abe Mortgage Bank 9.82%. They were among the major losers of the day. FBN Holdings led the pack with the highest volume of shares traded with a whopping 347 million shares. United Bank for Africa with 62.8 million shares, FCMB Group 45.7 million shares, and Fidelity Bank followed with 42.8 million shares traded. Still in Africa, on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, NXE, a total of 5.8 million shares were traded in 896 deals with a combined market value of 107 million Kenyan shillings compared to the previous trading day. The data shows a 38% decrease in trading volume, a significant 6% decrease in turnover, and a 4% decrease in the number of deals. The current market capitalization of the Nairobi Securities Exchange stands at 1.72 trillion Kenyan shillings. Similarly, on the Ghana Stock Exchange, GSE, a total of 41,661 shares were traded, amounting to a market value of 101,000 Ghana cedis, quite a significant decline compared to the previous trading day, with an 86% drop in the volume of shares traded and a 44% decrease in turnover. The overall market capitalization of the GSE currently stands at 70.9 billion Ghana cedis. Moving away from Africa to the U.S. Stock Exchange, the latest update on Dow Jones 30 Industrial Index, which is a measure of the stock market's performance that includes 30 major companies in the United States, is that the index stood at 35,419.61 points, which is an increase of 191.92 points, or 0.54% from the previous trading day, indicating a positive trend in the markets. Still on the U.S. stocks, NYSE International 100 Index, a stock market indicator that tracks the performance of 100 major companies from various countries, closed at an index of 6,476.14 points, which indicates an increase of 2.63 points or 0.04% from the previous measurement, showing an increase in the market. Now let's switch gears to the European stocks, where MDAX index, a stock market index that represents the performance of medium-sized companies in Germany, closed trade at 28,198.96 points, showing a decrease of 54.13 points or 0.19% from the previous trading day, reflecting a downward trend in the market. Lastly, in stocks, FTSE 100 index, a stock market index that tracks the performance of the 100 largest companies listed on the London Stock Exchange in the United Kingdom. In most of the updates seen, the index stood at 7,650.35 points, showing a decrease of 13.38 points or 0.176% from the previous measurement, signaling a negative movement in the market. Now let's get to the commodities market. Currently, the price of gold is $1,959.36 per troy ounce, while silver is priced at $24.51 per troy ounce. In the energy sector, Brent crude oil is being sold at $83.02 per barrel. Now, shifting our focus to the agricultural commodities, cocoa is currently being traded for 3,300.13 British pounds per ton, and wheat is priced at 292.46 cents per ton. Lastly, the currency market has witnessed much fluctuation in the start of the week, with the naira opening at 779.58 naira for a dollar, and with a slight upward trend of 2 naira, closed at 777.82 naira to a dollar. Currently, the naira rate against the euro is at 878.27. And to get a British pound, it will cost 1,017.59 naira. The naira also stands at 5.60 against the Japanese yuan, and its rate at 215.90 against the United Arab Emirates dirham. And that concludes the news. I am Olaoluwa Awe. It's time to dive into the event industry in Nigeria. Some say it's worth over $20 million, so why not? A part of this industry is the campus events. They are believed to be lucrative options for events organized and great brand awareness, promotional activities for businesses. But of the most recent campus event is Pokoli's homecoming concert at the Lagos State University, LASU, which was held on the 13th of July 2023. But the event was marred with stampede and a fight which escalated during the concert. It was observed that the presence of celebrities attracted attention, and some individuals present at the event attempted to extort money from them. Despite rumors of an attack on popular music artist Bella Shmurda and the rumored fight by Okoko and Ojo Boys, the LASU management clarified that the incidents were not cult-related and that the security team acted swiftly to manage the situation. The organizer, Pokoli, expressed his disappointment in a viral video questioning the behavior of those involved in the fight. But the general organization of the event raised questions. One of the partygoers said the fracas started when organizers oversold tickets for the limited space available. The hall, with a capacity of 3,000, was overcrowded as they allegedly sold tickets for 5,000 students. He said VIP and VVIP ticket holders couldn't find seats inside the hall and were left outside, which led to the fights that we experienced. According to reports, those who paid for premium seats felt they should not be left out or left outside when they had paid for VIP or VVIP access. While regular tickets were sold for 2,000 naira, VIP tickets went for 5,000 naira and VVIP 10,000 naira. Now, this follows continued conversation on how the increase in live show attendance, is affecting the event business all over the world. This is why we need to reevaluate the event business in Nigeria, especially on our campuses. Hopefully, we'll learn about the opportunities and threats, as well as the measures that should be put in place to prevent violence and logistic issues in our campus events. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Business Insider Sook News. As usual, I am Olaoluwa Awe, and I'm really excited to talk about what we have lined up for today, which is campus event management in Nigeria. If you have been monitoring the news, you'll see that attendance at live events, parties, tours and shows have increased over the years, especially in recent times. There seems to be more demand for parties, even in education institutions, universities, primary and secondary schools. So we really need to talk about how these things are managed. And in the introductory part of this program, just after the news, I mentioned how an event which recently happened somewhere in Lagos, in an institution in Lagos, led to stampede, led to fights and clashes. We really need to talk about some of the issues that will come up or that are coming up as live attendance at events increases. So, and that's why we have a guest to talk about that. She's an event strategist and she has managed several campus events in Nigeria. Her name is Susan Nwaoma Joseph, and with time we get to see her and talk to her. I must really appreciate those in this line of work, because a lot is going on in the world right now. People are looking for an outlet, a place to find relief. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have attendance and live events going up. But some of the things we're going to look at in today's event is, the difference between campus events and every, other events that we know. We're really going to talk about how lucrative this event is. Is this something that is open to more people? Can more people come in? Is there a value chain that they can also participate in and benefit from? How are these things done? What are the processes for event management in Nigeria, especially in the campus setting? We'll also be looking at the issue of crowd control, ticket control, because this is not the first time. If I have attended an event where we got there, it was supposed to be a hall event. It was supposed to be one of the top entertainment, the best entertainment events in Nigeria, only to see a lot of people. Eventually, I had to go back to the car to go and rest because I couldn't really sit there. It was very obvious that more tickets were sold than the hall could take. So these are some of the things we're going to address on the show today. So I'm being told now that Susan Nwaoma Joseph is joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Susan. Susan, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. I was just praising the people in your line of work, that you guys are lifesavers. You are the life of the parties. You're really saving lives, don't you think?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between a campus event and every regular event that we have out there.
Okay. All right. Good morning. Good morning to everybody in this live. My name is Susan Joseph Nwaoma, and I'm an event host strategist. The difference between campus events and other events is that you get to see more of students in campus events, because the name alone, campus, entails that is a campus event, and students are going to be in population, unlike when you do another event, probably outside the campus, where you rarely see students.
Yes,
events.
From the angle of planning, what are the differences?
Differences. Campus events. Okay, let's just use a statistics now. If you're doing a campus event, you get to see 90% invitees are students, while maybe the remaining 10% are outsiders or guest artists. While other events, you rarely see students there. You rarely see students, and campus events is always rowdy because everybody wants to attend. Campus event, they believe that it is their right. Like if you're doing any event inside the campus, is their right to attend.
You mean the students now?
So that place is always rowdy. If not managed well, it will cause some kind of chaos.
Now, what are the different types of campus events that you have seen in recent times?
You know, when it comes to campus events, it's always being slated under Director of Socials because events are social activities. So some of the campus events I've witnessed, I've seen of recent, you can see the Director of Socials with his team or any artist in the school, they will host a show. Probably they will name it the return of old students, and they will host a campus show. Some people will also call it campus tour, like the one that the popular Ugosi is doing currently now. She goes to different campuses to sing her hit song, and she names it campus tour. These are some of the things that most artists are doing now.
I also understand that even among students, there are also events. For example, there are pageantries hosted in the school. I know, I can remember from my days in the university, you know, you have halls of residents organize events just to entertain themselves. Maybe at the end of every year, you know, they do Miss this hall, Miss that hall. You also have school management initiated events. So are there things along that line that you have seen in recent times?
Yes, there are. Like the Mr. and Miss. Okay, let me use my school, for instance, the school I graduated from, Akanebiam. When they want to do Mr. and Miss Akanebiam, is usually under the office of the Director of Social. And these are events that occurs every year because after the Mr. and Miss Akanebian Federal Polytechnic Owana, after that 1 year, another Mr. and Miss will come up under the office of another Director of Social. Then other events now that are directly where different cultures come out to display. When the school is hosting their cultural day, the VC is involved, the HODs are involved, the lecturers are involved. Then different villages will come out and, you know, showcase their cultures, be it Ohofia, Abreba, Akwa Ibom, Uwaland. That one is the direct school event. Then when you come to different departments, there are also some events that the departments normally posts. You can also see Mr. and Miss Estate Management, Mr. and Miss Architecture, Mr. and Miss Accountancy. They do it a lot. Then they also do some dancing competition in all those events. People go around with music, loud music they play, do rally whenever these events are coming up. Just that whenever it is an event that is directly managed and hosted by the management, it's very difficult for it to flop or have issues. But all those ones that are extended to maybe the Director of Socials, the Director of Socials of different departments, most times it's very difficult for them to handle. So when it comes to events in campuses, it has stages and it has grades too.
I can see now that our campuses are still as interesting as they used to be, at least before COVID-19. Now, let's talk about how lucrative this business is. Do you really think campus event planners and strategists make a lot of money from this?
Okay, yes. And everything boils down to packaging. When you are very good in packaging, then you make a whole lot of money from events. be it in campuses, be it anywhere. Once it is events, then trust me, you're going to make money.
Please
If not
elaborate on what you
immediately,
mean
but
by
after the
packaging.
event and during the event,
Okay,
you're
so
going to make
what do you
money.
mean by packaging in this sense?
All right. The packaging I mean is there are some persons that will host events, and when you enter into the event center, everywhere is not organized. What I mean by being organized is there is no fund such events. If at all you collected money from them as a gate fee, they will not be happy. They might end up spoiling things for you. But there are some places you enter, the way they package the place, set tables with table cover, the way they will arrange everywhere. Just like me now, when I manage your event or host your event, there is a way I'm going to package the venue so that even if you're collecting gate fee, 2,000 naira or 1,000 naira, people will boldly pay and come into the place. Then another packaging I mean too is inviting the top guest artists. Yes, I know that these top guest artists, they charge a whole lot of money to attend your events. But when you invite them and you put their faces on your banner, on your flyer, and let these people know, let your students and your audience know that, okay, I'm bringing Sabinus, I'm bringing Brain Jota, I'm bringing Funny Bros. Then you tell them a table of 4 is 100,000 naira. Then regular ticket is 2,000 naira. People will be eager to see these people you've mentioned. Like they will want to see them. So when they are paying this money, they will pay. But when you're putting a face that they see almost every day on campus, you're putting the face of the president that they are living with in the same lodge, and you're telling them to pay 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira regular, and a table of 400,000, then they will be like, this person does not know what he or she is doing. Your show will flop. Your show will flop.
So if I understand you clearly, you're saying now that if you package your events very well, it gives you the opportunity to really put a huge price tag on the event. Like you can charge people as much as you want as ticket fee if the event is well packaged. So,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly.
Now,
if the event is well packaged, you can charge. There are
as
some
much
people
as
that
you
will
want.
attend events, they will pay 100,000. On their table, they will see small chops, they will see wine, they will see table water, and they will see probably a getaway pack. While in another show, you pay 100,000 naira for a table of 4. Then when you come to that place, you're seeing just table water. You start comparing. When I went to so show, on my table, see what I got. You end up getting, let's say, when you start calculating it, let's say wine is 5,000, water is 2,000, rice is this amount. You see that you've eaten almost half of your money. Why some people don't even give more than table water, no matter the amount you pay. That's why when you host a show,
value, that's the bottom line. Value. People want to see value for their money. Now take us through the process of planning a campus event in Nigeria. Where do you start from? What are the things that you really need to do and put in place? Who are the people you need to see before the event can become a success?
All right. When it comes to planning events in Nigeria campuses, it's very difficult. When I mean very difficult, you don't just put up a date and start planning your event. In some campuses, let me use some because I've not been to all campuses and I don't know how they operate. But when you want to plan an event in Nigerian campus per se, the first thing you look at is security. Security, especially if you're inviting people of value. If you're inviting people of value, you're inviting guest artists, big ones, what they will ask you first is, how strong is your security? If it's in a place that has army barracks, you go and meet army people, negotiate with them. You're a student, you're doing this event on campus. They'll be very fair with their charge. I've experienced it firsthand. So when you talk about security, definitely there are bad eggs. Yes, I must say this. There are bad eggs in campuses. If you want to host an event, there are these ones that are always sitting under the tree. You meet such ones, they are not costly. If you give them a bottle of drink and tell them, look at what I want to do, on the day of your event, they will be the ones clearing road for you. So when you're looking at external security, you also meet the happening boys inside campus. The people that, if they say that event will not hold, and they bring out themselves to spoil that your event for you, trust me, they
Wow.
will spoil it.
Wow.
So
Let's
when you
quickly
meet
dwell
outside
on this a little bit more, Susan. You said you advised that when you want to do a campus event, it's important for you to go and see maybe the nearest security apparatus around. And you mentioned soldiers. On an average, how much do they charge? In your own experience, on an average, how much have they charged to help you secure an event?
all right, if I need depending on how many officers I want, if you need a full squad, let's just say you should be looking at 100,000, depending on the environment. Depending on the environment where I schooled, when I was in school, it was a little bit remote area, like a village per se. So the security there is not violent. So when I want to invite security officers from outside campus, we should be looking at 40, 50,000. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 years ago. But currently now, I don't think it has exceeded 100,000 naira, and they will come with a full squad. But when you're looking at army or soldiers, most times soldiers will tell you, okay, we'll come. They'll just tell you to get them drink. They won't charge you any money, depending on how close. That's why I say if you're a campus event host, you should make friends with security personnel, be it soldiers, police officers, lawyers, and all that. And if you're a director of social in any campus, that means all social activities are going to come under your office. You should make step on making friends, giving them respect and the honor that they deserve. So that anytime you want to host an event in that your academic circle, they will always come out for you. Whether you pay them or not, they will just tell you, give us anything you feel is okay.
Thank you. When I asked that question earlier, I was even thinking we're going to start talking about, okay, this is, you first of all have to go to meet the school management. But let's go back a little. And how do you even secure the halls? How do you get permission, or don't you need anything of that sort when you're planning campus events?
You do. That's why I said, if you're planning a campus event and it is not the director of social that is doing it, you have to write to director of social. You write to the social. The socials will give you an approval first before you go ahead writing to the school management on how you want to secure your hall. Then you choose a date first before writing, so that if that date is occupied by someone else, because most times churches use venues for their events, crusade, seminars. So if you want to do any event and you write to the school management, it normally stays up to a week before they will approve your venue. So while you write to them and you're waiting for approval, you can now start other preparation and arrangements. Then while you're doing other arrangements, you'll be telling them, I've written to the school, they've not yet approved my venue, so I'm not yet sure of the dates. Anytime they give you an approval, you'll be called and your letter will be handed over to you. They will tell you the time you're supposed to stop. If the school management generator or lister is extended to that place, they will tell you, we are going to off our lister as usual. We are offing it by 1 a.m. or 12 a.m. So you make arrangements for your lighting. So you know that once the school is switching off by 12, you're owning your own generator. Because some of the venues that are being used for campus events are being given lights by the school authority. Whenever they on the general lights, the school authority will give them lights there. But if your event is staying more than 12 a.m., you will know that once they off the lights, it's blackout.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you.
Use your alternative.
Thank you very much, Susan. I think that was an eye-opener. You know, I'm very sure a good number of us don't even know all of that. But thank you very much. Let me just ask you this question before we call it a day. We've seen several campus events in Nigeria, you know, battled with issues of overcrowding. You mentioned it's maybe you said that a good number of students feel entitled, they want to come, they want to attend. So why do we have situations where, you know, halls are overcrowded, and how can we manage this better?
All right. This boils down to the committee of the event hosts. Everything is not money. Even if you collect money, you give them value. Now, let me use my school too. For instance, there is a hall we call
what school is that, by the way?
Hall. There is a hall we call Engine Hall. There is a hall we also call SUG Hall. The names of these halls are different. So are their capacity. Multipurpose hall is the biggest hall that can contain a very, very large number of persons. Now, if you're writing to the school management, for instance, and you tell them you want to use multipurpose hall, and you know that the capacity of this hall is 5,000 persons. If you're selling your tickets, there should be a book where you take note of how many tickets you've sold, how many persons you are expecting. Then you also give rooms for the stubborn ones that wouldn't want to pay, but they want to come in. In every campus, they are like that. You will definitely see someone that will come in through the window. Yes, but when you give yourself targets and you say, okay, out of this 5,000 capacity, if I'm able to sell 3,000 pieces of tickets, I can sort my bills and I'll still have balance. Then the remaining 2,000 capacity is for the stubborn ones. But you see someone, they will keep selling tickets. They will give tickets to their friends. They will give tickets to president of different departments. They will give tickets to vice president, president, hostel porters, hostel reps, and they will not keep proper accounts of these tickets being given out. Then the more they are selling the tickets, most people, all they want is sell ticket and bring money. The return is what they are after. Now they end up selling more than the capacity of the hall. They end up selling more than the capacity of the hall. So when people now come, they are showing their tickets and they are coming in. Then the hall becomes overcrowded. Then another thing that causes overcrowdedness is people not being able to sit at a place. That's why I started from security at first. If you come for an event and you're coming inside the premises and the first person you see is a soldier, then you see a bouncer that is as huge as, you will first of all respect yourself. Then you walk into the hall, four corners of the wall has soldiers. You sit down because there are students that no matter how you shout, no matter how you talk, they won't sit down on the chair. They will sit on top of the decks.
Wow.
Some of them will not even sit at all. They will prefer walking around the hall, walking around the venue, causing nuisance.
Thank you.
They feel,
Thank you,
yes,
Susan.
most
Susan,
of all those things gives.
we have come to the end of the program, but I think we need to continue this conversation. This is something we definitely need to talk more on. If we can't just end this here. But thank you very much for your time on Business Insights today. We have to go. Thank you, Susan. Okay, so I guess Susan heard me or not, but thank you all for your time today. We need to continue this conversation of proper events management in Nigeria. So stay tuned to Souk News for more conversations like this. I am Olaoluwa Awe. Thank you very much for watching. Business Insight continues tomorrow.
Each new day presents a new slate to write new things on, such as an innovative idea, new plans or decisions. But whatever you write, be sure it is based on relevant and adequate information. This is what you get on Early Exchange. Good morning, welcome to the show. I am Blessing AJ. Ayo Jimmy is here with me. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Blessing. Good morning from a nation of 220 million people plus, where the press is never idle and never tired, never bored, and you will not be bored. The agenda for renewed hope continues as the president rolls out policy statements and documents to ensure that all of us smile. But how much can we smile? What is the length of our smile? How broad can it be? Today we'll discuss all that, even as we roll out and talk about palliative measures that this regime has rolled out. Today is going to be a great day for you and for all of us together. My name is Ayo Jimmy. Of course, this is Souk News and we make news first on the agenda. And so Olaoluwa Awe is standing by in the studio to bring us news updates from around the world. Please stay.
Yes, thank you very much, Ayo Jimmy. Good morning, Blessing AJ, and good morning to you. Welcome to the morning news update on Early Exchange. I am Olaoluwa Awe. As usual, we start with developments in Nigeria. Stay tuned. Now, the federal government has clarified that tuition fees for students in Unity colleges nationwide remain free and that only the boarding and textbook fees were reviewed. The government said it introduced a uniform fee for new students in Junior Secondary School 1 and Senior Secondary School 1 to address concerns about parents paying uniform fees into separate accounts and to ensure uniformity among students. The official circular titled Approved Fee for Federal Unity Colleges for New Students was released on the 25th of May 2023 before President Bola Ahmed assumed office. It shows the parents will now have to pay a total of 100,000 naira instead of the previous 45,000 naira. And the same circular addressed the principals of federal government colleges for JSS 1 and 2, Senior Secondary School 1 and 2. There was an increment of 15,000 naira in boarding fees, 3,000 naira in textbooks, and an additional 2,000 naira for notebooks. Upon closer examination, it was observed that the new school fees included an additional 49,500 naira for JSS 1 students, covering uniform, boarding, medical utilities, textbook, notebooks, and prospectus fees. The Office of the Director, Senior Secondary Education Department of the Federal Ministry of Education explained that boarding and other fees for students of Unity colleges were increased to cover for the low overheads in the federal government college system. By increasing the fees, the government aims to ensure that the schools can provide the necessary facilities, resources, and services to maintain a conducive learning environment for the students. But this news has generated criticisms among social media users in Nigeria. And the Ministry of Health in Lagos State has reacted to a leaked memo going viral online about the victims of the October 2020 NSAS protest, clarifying that the details of the letter were being misconstrued. The state government asserted that the victims mentioned in the letter were from incidents of violence that occurred after the NSAS protest and not the controversial Lekki Tollgate shooting. A leaked memo surfaced revealing that the Lagos state government approved over 61 million naira for the mass burial of some 103 individuals identified as victims of the 2020 NSAS protest. The memo, dated July 19, 2023, outlines the steps for processing the funds after the governor's approval. The memo also indicates that a ministerial tenders board meeting reviewed the recommendations of the procurement planning committee and no objections were raised to awarding the mass burial contract to a funeral service provider. The document further instructs that relevant taxes and deductions are to be remitted by the approved company. According to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, the bodies were picked up by the Lagos State Environmental Health Unit, SEMO, in areas like Fagba, Ketu, Ikorodu, Orile, Ajegunle, Abule-Egba, Ikeja, Ojota, Ekoro, Ogba, Isolo, Aja, and there was also a jailbreak at the Ikoyi prison. The Lagos State government reiterated no mass killing of protesters around the NSAS protest. Similarly, the University of Lagos has announced a new fee structure for students. According to the new structure, while a student without lab and studio use are to pay 100,750 naira, those with lab use will pay 140,250 naira, and the College of Medicine students will be required to pay 190,250 naira per session. The university's Vice Chancellor, Professor Fola Shadil Busola, had in a meeting with representatives of the 3 non-academic staff unions on July 20th, disclosed the proposed fees. To provide some flexibility, Professor Ogunsola at the meeting offered the option for staff to pay in installments. However, they must complete their payments 1 month before final exams. And still in Lagos, ahead of the demolition that is scheduled to be carried out by the Lagos State government at the Adeniji Adele Housing Estate, the Lagos State government says it will provide resettlement for those affected. This was according to the spokesperson of the Lagos State Urban Renewal Agency, LARUSA, Mrs. Adiola Olagoke. According to the agency's general manager, Ajibike Shomari, LARUSA had in June identified about 26 weak and distressed buildings within the Adeniji Adele Housing Estate, phases 1 to 4, which it noted were recommended for demolition to prevent loss of lives and property. Some of the affected buildings included blocks 103 and 106 in phase 2, blocks 56, 57, 58, 61, and 66 in phase 3. Meanwhile, Mrs. Olagoke said talks are still ongoing on the provision of alternative buildings to those who will be affected by the intended demolition. The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, has apprehended 12 individuals suspected of vandalizing railway sleepers and seized 2 trucks carrying stolen railway sleepers. During 3 separate operations within 2 weeks, the NSCDC Special Intelligence Squad made these arrests at various locations, including Kapenchankoi Road in Kaduna State and Angwa Kuje Village in Nasarawa State. Intelligence report says in one operation, the vandals were caught loading stolen railway sleepers in a bush in Nasarawa. The squad also intercepted a long open trailer filled with over 500 pieces of vandalized railway sleepers, allegedly owned by the Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC), concealed under sacks of groundnut dust. Additionally, 3 individuals transporting vandalized railway sleepers hidden with rice chaff in a bus were arrested along the Kefi-Abuja Expressway. In another operation, 4 more suspected vandals were caught loading railway sleepers into an illegal warehouse in Kaduna. The NSCDC disclosed that among the retrieved items was a forged copy of the NRC scrap delivering paper. The arrested suspect and exhibits will be further investigated to aid in future arrests. The agency urged citizens to provide helpful information to assist in arresting vandals across the nation and to curb the rate of critical infrastructure vandalism. It also warned individuals involved in criminal activities of stealing national assets to cease their actions, as they will face consequences for such illegal activities. From Nigeria to Ghana, the Ghanaian Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Benat-Dapa, has resigned her appointment after it was reported that some staff members found and stole starches of money, both in local and foreign currencies, from her home. Newspaper reports claimed $1 million, 300,000 euros, and millions of cedis were allegedly stolen from her home, sparking outrage and calls for the minister's resignation. The minister, in a resignation letter, said the figures reported did not represent what she and her husband reported to the police, and that she understands perfectly the weight of such allegations around someone in her position. Although the presidency received a resignation letter and praised her work without making mention of the allegation, the president vowed to continue to crack down on corruption. Still in Africa, the government of Gambia is more than likely to seek a legal action against an Indian drug maker, Maiden Pharmaceutical, alongside a local distributor, over toxic cough syrup believed to have been responsible for the death of over 70 children. Majority of the children, who were under 5 years, died of acute kidney injury last year in Gambia. According to an investigation about the death conducted by Gambia's task force, the deaths were a direct result of contaminated cough and cold syrup imported from India. The World Health Organization, WHO, also confirmed that the cough syrup contained little toxic ethylene glycol and ethylene glycol, commonly used in car brake fluid and other products unfit for human consumption. The executive director and deputy director of the country's Medicine Control Agency, MCA, were fired, and the case was reported to the police after the task force discovered that the medicine was not registered as required. The new pharmaceutical has denied wrongdoing, and the Indian government claimed the result of the test carried out on the drug showed no contamination. But the Gambian Justice Minister said the country has already hired the service of U.S. law firm to consider the possibility of a legal action against India. Algeria has taken significant steps to explore new economic opportunities by applying to join BRICS, a prominent association of emerging economies. In addition to the membership application, Algeria has also expressed interest in becoming a shareholder member of the BRICS Bank with a substantial investment of $1.5 billion. This move comes following a visit by Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to China. BRICS is an influential group comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, collectively representing over 40% of the world's population and approximately 26% of the global economy. Notably, more than 40 other countries, including Argentina, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Cuba, Democratic Republic of Congo, Comoros, Gabon, and Kazakhstan, have shown keen interest in joining the organization, according to a South African top diplomat. During President Tebboune's visit to China, there were discussions which resulted in China's commitment to investing $36 billion in Algeria across various economic sectors. These investments are expected to span fields like new technology, manufacturing, the knowledge economy, transportation, and agriculture. The G20 nations held a meeting in Barbaling, India, to address the crucial issue of phasing down fossil fuels and promoting sustainability. They collectively account for over 3/4 of carbon emissions and gross domestic products, GDPs, which gives them a unique opportunity to make a significant impact in the fight against climate change. While the countries reached an agreement on 22 out of 29 paragraphs, there were disagreements on critical issues such as the proposed tripling of renewable energy capacities by 2030. This resulted in the release of a summary statement instead of a joint communique at the end of the 4-day meeting. The discussions also included sections urging developed countries to work together in mobilizing $100 billion per year for climate action in developing economies from 2020 to 2025. While the G20 struggled to reach a comprehensive agreement on phasing down fossil fuels, the urgency to address climate change intensifies with extreme weather events around the world, serving as stark reminders of the challenges at hand. And in response to US President Joe Biden's growing concerns surrounding the potential misuse of artificial intelligence AI during an event held at the White House, prominent artificial intelligence companies including OpenAI, Alphabet, and Meta platforms that participated in the meeting have made commitments to uphold the safety of AI technology. One of the measures agreed upon was the implementation of watermarking in AI-generated content. This move aims to facilitate the detection of deepfake images or misleading content that might depict non-existent violence, propagate scams, or manipulate images of public figures negatively. The companies also pledged to thoroughly test their AI systems before release and share information on risk reduction in cybersecurity practices. Furthermore, they promised to prioritize the protection of users' privacy as AI continues to advance. They aim to address issues of bias and ensure that AI is not used to discriminate against vulnerable members of society. The White House views this commitment as a significant step forward in the Biden administration's efforts to regulate AI technology, as the industry continues to experience rapid growth in investment and popularity with consumers. The president also emphasized the importance of remaining vigilant and clear-eyed about the potential dangers that emerging technologies could pose to the United States democracy. Now to the UK. UK's Foreign Secretary James Cleverly has postponed his planned trip to Beijing this month. The delay comes in the wake of mysterious disappearance of a top Chinese diplomat, Foreign Minister Kung Jian, which is having ripple effects on geopolitics. Foreign Minister Gang's near-month-long absence from public view has raised concerns and uncertainty, leading to a postponement in Foreign Secretary Cleverly's expected late July visit to Beijing. While Bloomberg reported that the two countries are reviewing alternative dates, the situation surrounding the missing Chinese diplomat has added complexities to diplomatic engagements, and various countries are closely monitoring the developments. The city of Padua in northern Italy has initiated a process of removing the names of non-biological gay mothers from their children's birth certificate. This action comes as a result of new legislation passed by the current traditional Family First government led by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Consequently, only the biological parents of a child can now be listed on the birth certificate. This legal measure has significant implications for same-sex parents, as surrogacy is prohibited and gay marriage remains unlegalized in Italy. Due to the lack of recognition for same-sex relationships in the country's law, the non-biological parents must go through a special legal process to adopt their own child. Moreover, the new measure also impacts men in same-sex relationships, as they are no longer allowed to register the birth of their child with both fathers' names. Instead, they must choose only one of the fathers to be legally recognized as the child's parent. This birth certificate development pertained to 33 children of Italian women who underwent artificial insemination abroad and consequently registered their children under the previous center-left government of Sergio Giordani in 2017. The prosecutor's office in Padua has confirmed that 27 mothers have already been removed from their respective birth certificates. And that's the morning news update for today. Thank you for watching. I am Olaoluwa Awe. To follow Soup News on social media and stay tuned to Early Exchange for more updates. Good morning once again.
Welcome back. Thank you, Olaoluwa, for the update in the world of news. Okay, it's a very busy day for us as a country. I said earlier in my introduction that this is a country where the press is never idle, never tired, and never bored, and the people are never bored. One key issue that is on the minds of Nigeria, that is top on the lips of Nigerians when we talk about this removal of fuel subsidy and the palliative measures put in place by the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It was in the news today that because of this subsidy pain, Labour is talking tough, yes. And ASU protesters condemn relief plans. That's according to local newspaper Punch. Now, just 2 days ago, the National Economic Council came out with the reviewed palliative measures, part of which the cost of living infrastructure is there, cost of living allowance, I beg your pardon, is there, and a whole lot of measures that are put in place to ensure that the pains of Nigerians are assuaged. But it seems that people are not having anything like that. They are complaining that they are not. These so-called measures are still not enough to assuage the pains of Nigerians.
Yeah, the Nigeria Labour Congress, like you mentioned, talking tough and planning protests against the removal of fuel subsidy, even though the federal government has plans for palliative measures as well as the cost of living allowance for civil servants. But I think that Labour does not agree with the plans because Labour feels that they are not enough to actually take care of the pains of the removal of subsidy. And that is why there is planned protest, not to mention that there have been increase of other things. For instance, increase of fees, increase of price of products and services across the nation. So these are the issues that are making Labour to talk tough.
Okay. Now, we are not alone in the studio, as we have with us Idahosa or Samanze, and let's not forget that he is the Director of Policy and Research, Africa Development Studies Center. Idahosa, welcome, Lord.
Ayo, good morning. Good morning,
morning,
Blessing.
It's
Good
a
morning,
never-
Nigeria.
It's a never-ending conversation. This is top on the minds, top on the lips of Nigerians.
Oh, yes.
The president is saying he has come with the renewed hope agenda.
Oh, yes.
But feelers in town are not speaking to this renewed hope. People are feeling they are less hopeful in his policy thrust. What's your take on this? Because we seem to be back to that table.
Well, the only thing that is constant in life is change.
Yes.
And most of the time, change are not always things that are pleasant. And once change are happening, a lot of people definitely will resist. And that's why any strategic leader, while planning change, must also plan change management to address those issues of resistance that come from the people you're trying to help, so to speak. Now, it is too really early for people to really cry. And why we are looking at what government is doing on the one hand, we must also look at the long-term implications of these decisions that are being taken. And I think what Nigerians should really be concerned about is the measure of integrity that is being put in place to channel the savings that are going to come or that is coming from this subsidy debacle to productive use, so that in the long run, all of us will become beneficiary.
But Labour, according to Labour, the subsidy was unintelligently removed. What could be the reason for that? Because the government has removed subsidy, but it is making plans for palliative measures. So why then say it was unintelligently removed?
Yeah, I think the point Labour has made over the years is that subsidy is not sustainable. But like they say, it's like the game, the egg and the chick, which come first, whether it's the egg or the chick. So this has been the real debate around the removal of subsidy. Labour is saying, yes, remove subsidy. But if you want to remove subsidy, there are some basic things you need to put in place, which will help address the dire consequence of the removal on the common man on the streets. Now, what are these issues? The petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working. Because if you produce your PMS at home, of course you will reduce substantial amount of the pump price. Like I said, logistics costs on current pricing of PMS is about 17 naira. So which means if you take 17 naira away from 560 that mega stations are selling, you don't know what that gives you. It reduces further down. Now, this is what people are asking for. The basic thing that you need to put on the ground are not there yet. So why remove subsidy? But the question Labour need to real answer in this direction is to see, do we really have the resource to put this basic infrastructure in place before removing subsidy? We know that the government has borrowed up to its throat. And we are choking to death. A situation where you are servicing your debt with about 96% of your revenue. It's unacceptable. This is the right time to remove subsidy. And what all of us need to do is just cooperate with government and then begin to drum into the ear of government so that what is not being accrued as a result of this removal should be properly channeled into things that will benefit the people. Health, education, defense, and security.
I guess it's because this particular policy goes directly to the nerve of people. And people are complaining in town. A family that was able to spend 7,000 naira fueling the car per week now spends as much as 40,000 naira. Up till now, there has not been an upward review in salaries of fixed earners. yes, those who are into businesses can jack up the prices of their wares in response to what they meet in the market, but those with fixed incomes are not able to do that. And this is why even the academic is joining. Like we have Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Unilab chapter is championing this because of a number of factors. Some of which we will discuss in the next.
I think strikes are not progressive, and they are not real tools that government people should be resorting to, because it's even itself a distortion on the economic activities and further devaluing the man on the street that they want to protect. You see, what the real issues are is that let us see what the outcome is. For the first time, FAC is sharing over 3 trillion. After a very long time between states and the local governments and the federation. And I think what we should be concerned about, or the workers should be concerned about, is that this money that is now being made, that is not getting into the pocket of few individuals, but they should go into social interventions that will eventually affect the majority of Nigerians.
That's where transparency comes in. So once that happens, I believe that the nerves of a lot of Nigerians will become calm. Even as states are beginning to do their own palliative measures or propose palliative measures to ensure that the pain of subsidy removal is reduced. Now let's get on to talk about education. So according to the Punch newspaper, it is believed that with 2,000 naira, one can get the West African Senior School Certificate Examination questions online an hour before the commencement of the exam, which speaks to malpractice. And so supervisors, invigilators selling wire questions online, some of them were arrested and on trial. So the issue of examination malpractice, it has taken different dimensions. At one point, we saw the spring up of what they call miracle centers, where students go to enroll in some centers with the hope that they'll get assisted during the examination to come out in flying colors. Now, I don't know how much of that has been reduced, but it has come up to the point where you can now have access to the examination questions online an hour at least before the examination. But how could that be possible if there is no complicity in some area?
Well, the WAEC boss made a particular statement here. He said WAEC has barely about 1,500 staff members, and they are conducting exams for over 21,000 secondary schools across West Africa. How do you suggest, I mean in Nigeria, how do you suggest that a staff strength of 1,500 will cover 21,000 plus secondary school? Now they resort to using ad hoc staff that they call supervisors. Now, he said one thing also, that they only release the papers to them 1 hour before exam, obviously for them to be able to convey it down to the centers. Now, within that 1 hour window is when this havoc is wreaked. People will leak the results, I mean the papers
questions
online before they even get to do it. And students can purchase with as low as 2,000, which in itself is a crime against humanity. But the good thing is that they have tracking systems according to the WAEC boss, by which they are, tracking those who are culpable, and they are bringing them to book. Some of them are being investigated and tried in the court of law. But I think it's sad. Idahausa, your take on this?
Well, I think, again, it speaks to our value system as a people, that we are very corrupt, and the majority of us are looking for means, for survival, they call it, and therefore resorting to criminal activities like this particular one we talk about. You see, a lot of things happen. And this is because of the competitiveness of the environment. Again, you go back, is a failure of the value systems in the family. But fundamentally speaking, is the fact that why are people really wanting to buy certificates? Because Nigerian has put so much premium on paper qualification. And so people are struggling, and even those who have no capacity for academic rigor want to be in school because they see that the only way to survive is through going to the university or higher institution of learning. But I think this thing we need to correct to let people understand that the value of the certificate itself is not an end in itself, but is a means to an end. And there are other alternatives to this same end, which is you investing and developing your God-given ability and skills, following your passion, things that you love doing, and do them very well, and it will put food on your table. I don't think somebody like Davido, for example, is using certificates to eat. And I think many Nigerian young people should take him, for example, as a model. False studied law, but he's playing a lot of music. It's no certificate he's using. So there are a lot of people who we have seen, yes, they have been to school, but what's actually putting food on the table is not the certificate they earn from school. So if we can actually de-emphasize the importance of certificates, some of all these things that we talk about will naturally come to
I think it has to be
cessation.
a systematic thing, because until we have a system that respects skills and not paper qualification, that will not really happen. Because some persons, even if you ask them, don't want to go the line of having academic qualifications, but because they know that without that, there's no respect for whatever skill you have. At the end of the day, they will still say, oh, he didn't go to school or she didn't go to school. So that's why they want to do everything to ensure that they have that paper qualification. But I think one way to go about even having the paper qualification is for WAEC to adopt the JAMB method, where you have online examinations. So until the time you're to write the exam, you don't have access to the exam. So there's no need for anybody carrying question papers to examination halls, which may actually increase the cost of enrollment for WAEC examinations. But I think that is one way to curb the incidence of examinations.
But sorry, Ayo, just to look at the CBT too, it's also a very fundamental issue. I remember some years ago, about 3 years ago now, and Professor Oloyede was asked on the national television, what does he have to say to the young chap that scored the best in JAMB? He said he has nothing to say because he's not even sure whether it's his result. So even the sharp practices, they're everywhere. The real issue for me, which is fundamental, is not the mechanism, it's the value system in our environment. You see, the way it was done in the West was value and dignity of labor. That it does not really matter what you do, but what matters is that at least you are working and you are joining God in his creative efforts. And that was what pioneered the Industrial Revolution. So people were happy to be cleaners. People were happy to be maids. They are working. And because they are contributing, they are actually not serving their masters. They are actually serving God. And they are joining God in God's creative enterprise. And this was encouraged. So you don't look down on any kind of profession. The real reason why a lot of people are struggling to earn a certificate is because if you see a mechanic, you look down on them. If somebody says a farmer here, you look down on the person. So people don't want to carry that toga, of an inferior person. So they also want to be a graduate.
Which in itself is a matter of perception. It's a matter of perception. And it is because, like Blessing said earlier, we still live in a climate that values certification as against skill set.
Yeah.
No matter how skilled you are, if you don't have a certificate that is recognized by the law, and you will still be employed as a technician, no matter how good. Be the best electrician, the best mechanical engineer. If you don't have that certificate that you are a qualified engineer as qualified by our school system, you will still be employed as a technician, and somebody with probably less skill endowment than you will still come and be your boss. That is for those who are policy makers. But for us as individuals, there is one question we must ask ourselves when you're in school. What if this certificate fails? What do I do? Because we have seen certified broke people. People are certified and they are broke with all, because we are turning out thousands and thousands of graduates into a labor market that is belabored. I call it a belabored labor market, because there is no space to, to absorb those who are turning out. So if you ask yourself, what if this certificate fails? Then maybe you begin to take instructions and look within yourself and bring out strength in a new direction.
And
yes,
you acquire
not
skill.
all of us can become a Davido. That calls for a particular skill set. But there are other things you can do apart from singing that can give you access to wealth, access to fame, and so on and so forth.
And if you must go the way of acquiring educational qualification, they used to say that it's not for you to just go through school. School has to go through you.
Exactly.
So for your own benefit, so you can even make good use of the number of years that you spent in school and defend the certificate, because that's what will matter at the end of the day. If you have to go that route, then you must ensure that you study the books and school goes through you as much as you want to go through school. Let's turn now to Made in Nigeria smartphones. Report has it that Made in Nigeria smartphones fumble as monthly importation hits 50 billion naira. So despite ranking among countries in the world with huge mobile connections, with 320 million SIMs since the telecoms revolution began about 2 decades ago in Nigeria, but most of smartphones in Nigeria have been imported from other countries. That speaks to, about us not producing enough of what we use. One would have thought that being smartphone, we have a lot of smartphone repairers, and that perhaps it shouldn't be so complex to produce here or even assemble here, but we still have a large chunk of it being imported here.
While I agree with you that it is easy to think it should be easier to produce here, there are so many factors that come into place before you can produce smartphones successfully and profitably. Let's not forget that those who are producing are not into charity. And when you talk about we importing billions of naira worth of smartphones annually, despite the fact that we have huge mobile penetration, it still boils down to one key thing. What do we value? We still believe in the exotic over the local. Homegrown technology doesn't appeal to us as much as the so-called foreign technology, which is itself a matter of perception. I wish we could just, maybe your one sentence from you, because we have to wrap up now this segment. What do you say to this? One liner.
Well, I think we should also find a way to help that industry. You see, a lot of people will find things cheaper to produce outside than doing them locally, and that actually increases price. So, but what we're talking about here is competitiveness. If we can be competitive, a lot of these things will change.
And if we can also ensure standards, then of course it gives us an edge to compete in the smartphones industry. So let's take a break and begin to look at other issues. Stay tuned, it's Early Exchange.
Welcome back to Early Exchange on Souk News, and that was a break there. When I look at how complex it is to rule a country as diverse in interests as Nigeria, only one phrase comes to mind: no jokes. Yes, no jokes at all. Because, yes, we all agree that subsidy has to be removed, and removed it is. There is no rolling back. The government is trying everything possible to introduce palliative measures to assuage the pains of the populace, but it seems that is not enough, at least not in the interim. Now, just 2 days ago, the National Economic Council rolled out the full palliative measure. That was after the initial 8,000 naira proposed 8,000 naira disbursement to poor homes in the country. Now, part of that is what we're discussing today. We're looking at the NEC resolutions in detail, which number one, which is the support proposed, the proposed support in the context of cost of living allowance for civil servants. That is the front burner topic for today, and we have somebody around. Blessing. When you're out there, you seem to believe, yes, you can do it. But when you're there and you see the enormity of the challenge there, what comes to mind?
You know the saying, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown.
Not just the crown, that holds the spectre.
Yeah, so it's not very easy, but you know, it's a decision made. So I'm very sure that President Bola Ahmed knew very much that it's not going to be easy running the affairs of Nigeria, and that's why you find that the plans are coming in quick successions. They tried one, they proposed one plan, they saw the reactions of Nigerians, and so they're reviewing the proposed distribution of 8,000 naira as a palliative measure to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. But the NEC has made some resolution, which you mentioned one of them, which is proposed cost of living allowance for civil servants. Yes, I think that would work to an extent, but the thing is, not everyone is a civil servant. But for civil servants, it's going to work because I think the allowance is going to be shared based on levels. So maybe some percentage of your salary is going to be given to you as allowance to cover for the increased cost of goods and services that have come into being as a result of the fuel subsidy removal. And there are other plans, which is the endorsement of the deployment of CNG vehicles for public transportation. Now, CNG is compressed natural gas. About the CNG thing, you know, that initiative was actually proposed by the former administration, talking about the administration of former President Buhari. But what was a setback to it was the cost of conversion, because not all vehicles in Nigeria are CNG vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that was made to run using petrol, you have to convert to the one using CNG. So the cost of conversion as at that time was put at 240,000 naira. So who would bear the cost? How many persons could afford converting their vehicles to CNG? That was the setback. But with this plan, I do hope all of the factors are being considered alongside the cost of living allowance for civil servants.
Okay, thank you, Blessing. There are questions to be asked and there are answers to be given, not to us, but to Nigerians out there. And we are not the ones that will do the answering of the questions. We will do the asking of the questions. One person who is standing by via Zoom to do the answering of the questions is Mr. Emmanuel Oluwafemi, who is getting set. He's getting set for that. But before then, let's look at the fact that states are plugging into this so-called palliative measures. Just yesterday, Ogun State government rolled out its own measures as adapted from what the NEC came up with. And one major item, which is number 7 on the list, is that it has ordered ministries, departments, and agencies to work out modalities of ensuring that 20% of their staff strengths are off duty daily to ease the burden of, you know, the cost of transportation, which is key. Meaning, we are finally getting to that point where you do probably one day on and one day off.
Yeah, but my worry concerning this is I hope it doesn't affect productivity at the end of the day, where you have workers having one day off. Maybe at the end of the day, you have like 3 working days, because if you alternate it and you have 5 working days, some persons may just have to work 3 days a week, and maybe some others 2 days. But depending on how they work around that, my worry, like I said, is the impact on productivity. I do hope there are measures to ensure remote work so that there is no gap in trying to ensure that workers spend less in trying to do their job?
Okay, I think it's a matter of the system you put in place. The world of work is changing per second.
Yes,
what used
it is.
to work before is no longer working. So the people are working remotely. There are,
In the private sector,
companies
but I hope
that are
that is
sorry.
effectively done in the
Yes.
public system.
There are companies that are run entirely from home.
Yes.
And they work. It's about system. Okay, I have it that Mr. Emmanuel Olorunfemi is standing by. He is a research manager at Africa Development Studies Center, Abuja. That is ADSC. Let's just confirm first and foremost that he can hear us. Mr. Emmanuel, good morning from us there. Let's hear your voice.
Good morning.
I can't hear your voice. Can you unmute? Good morning. Mr. Emmanuel, can you hear me? I can't hear you, Mr. Emmanuel. You can't hear me. He's shaking his head. You can't hear me. Say something, Mr. Emmanuel.
I think he can hear
Yes,
us.
I can hear you now.
Okay, good to know. Okay, we're looking at the NEC, the National Economic Council proposals, talking about the resolutions of the NEC, I beg your pardon, and we're looking at the first part of it, which is a three-legged part. Number one is that there is now the proposed cost of living allowance for civil servants, where the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission have proposed an allowance that amounts to 702 billion naira to be paid to civil servants, and states are beginning to effect that, because in Ogun State, for instance, we have about 10,000 naira for each public servant on a monthly basis as part of the cost of living allowance. You would assume that this should calm frail nerves in the country, but as it is, people are saying it is still not enough. Let's start with that opener. What is your take on this? This allowance for cost of living, how much of allowance does it allow you to cushion, to adjust to the discomfort that is brought to you by the removal of fuel subsidy? Is this enough, or is just a drop of saliva on dry land?
All right. Thank you very much for having me here today. Though I didn't get your question clearly.
My question is this. Hello, sir. Let me explain myself.
The allowance.
This cost of living allowance that has been earmarked by the NEC, and in some states like Ogun State, it amounts to like 10,000 naira per month for each civil servant. How well can this really cushion the effect of cost fuel subsidy removal? Is this enough? This allowance of say 10,000 naira per month, how well can it cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy? That's my question.
Okay, the best way the government can go about it, that is what the NEC has already started. Though there are many things that Nigerians are complaining about, most of them, they are necessary pain that we need to bear for now. But when it comes to allowance for civil servants, we know that they are out to spend about 200 billion to 250 billion monthly to subsidize their petroleum costs for coming to work. But if we look at it that way, it's not going to be something that government should do, because in the month of June, government was able to save 400 billion naira from subsidy removal. And if 250 is being used to give allowance for consumption again, that shows that more than 50% of what they've saved have been expended on consumption. And in the long run, the pain that everyone is bearing amounts to nothing. So the best way to go about it is to invest in infrastructure, which is a component of what NEC has already been laid out. Thank you.
So what then would you propose if the cost of living allowance is not something you think is healthy for the Nigerian economy in the long run? Hello, Emmanuel, can you hear me? Emmanuel, can you hear me?
No, I can't.
Okay, if you can hear me now, just say hello. Okay, must have some audio challenge. All right, now as good as the cost of living allowance sounds, but according to Emmanuel, he doesn't see that as a path to go, given that over time we end up spending what we're getting as savings from the removal of fuel subsidy. I quite agree with that in another aspect, because yes, giving money as allowance to civil servants will increase more disposable income, which will stimulate economic growth. But I fear that in turn would also lead to increased inflation, because once traders get to hear that, oh, some allowances are being given to civil servants, it's almost equal to saying there's been an increase in the salary of civil servants. And you know what follows when that happens?
I think I want to agree with you on that. But let's not forget the fact that it is just a temporary thing. It is called palliative for a particular reason. It won't continue forever. The government, no government can continue to dole out 10,000 naira or what have you on a monthly basis to the civil servants. There is a fixed amount for this cost of living allowance, which is 702 billion naira. Now, if you even divide that by our population, it has a lifespan of its own. Okay, so I just want to believe that it's just government's way of saying, okay, we understand the pains you are going through, have this for starters while we work out. When you talk about infrastructural development, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And there's a difference between overnight and overtime. Mr. Emmanuel, I need you to confirm that you can hear us now so we can continue with the line of question. My colleague has a question for you. Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel, once again. Can you hear us now? Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good that you can hear it. So, if giving out cost of living allowance is not the way to go, what would you then propose in the interim? Okay, I have to say that again because obviously Emmanuel didn't hear me. So if the cost of living allowance is not something that you quite think is going to be effective, what should be the way to go as the government proposes palliative measures to cushion the effects of subsidy removal?
Can you hear us?
Please, can you come again?
You mentioned that the cost of living allowance is going to eat into the savings accrued from the removal of subsidy removal. So if that is not the way to go about this, what then would you propose the government do? Hello, Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, but can you hear
I'm
me?
still having this hearing problem.
Oh, okay. So we understand that in some parts of the country, particularly in Benin City, there are pockets of protest over the removal of subsidy.
Oh.
That means that tension is building. So government has to do something to further douse tension. And that's why it is the NEC has proposed that the government should give out cost of living allowance. But you say it's more like you say getting money off subsidy, but you're spending a lot of it as palliative. So I'm asking, what should be the solution to this? Not just to calm nerves, but to cushion the effects.
All right. The palliative measure should be mainly infrastructural, and it should be focused on production, not on consumption. One of the issues we have the subsidy over the years was that it has been for consumption and it's not for production. And not just consumption within our local economy, but we are for foreign economies, our neighboring countries. Therefore, if there's any palliative that government is working on, that NEC has started with, the one that built infrastructure in a way that CNG vehicles are being incorporated into our public transportation system, allowance should be prioritized too, but it should not be more than 30% of whatever we are doing. So if we are using subsidy, though there's nothing like subsidy saving henceforth, the only time we can refer to subsidy saving is between June 1st and 30th, because what accrued to government within that time, there is still budgetary operation that allow for payment of subsidy. So 400 billion that was saved is the only one that could be referred to our subsidy saving. From July, the narrative changes, which is everything government earns is within the fiscal policy of the government to account for it. So it's going to be a budgetary allocation from whether from supplementary budget or from the current 2023 budget. Now, having said that, the best way are the measure to cushion the effect of subsidy removal in infrastructure. Because if we have immediate wins, they will come back with multiple effects, negative ones, that will still result in what we are or what we are leaving behind. So it's better to bear the brunt